Greetings, this is Tariq X with National Network View. On tonight's show, Nina Shabazz discusses her interview with Taye Uhuru about his experiences in Africa. Abdul Haqq will update us on the Newark Peace Agreement and the collective coming together in solidarity to end violence and murder. Later in the show, Taquella Mahammad joins us to discuss disaster preparedness as weather changes bring unforeseen dangers. 15 million doses of Johnson & Johnson's single-shot COVID-19 vaccine was ruined and determined defective after failing to pass quality control standards.
Well, we know that many people were interested in this particular vaccine because it involves a single shot. But this setback here could create a bit of a stumbling block. So this issue, we're told, stemming from a plant in Baltimore. In a statement, Johnson & Johnson says, quote, the quality control process identified one batch of drug substance that did not meet quality standards. So we're talking about 15 million doses here, according to the New York Times. That's how many doses of the J&J vaccine that were ruined. According to the company, the defective batch never advanced to the filling and finishing stages of its manufacturing process. Johnson & Johnson says it's working to correct the issue. They still hope to deliver 24 million of their single-shot doses nationwide through the month of April. Now,
the Nubian Leadership Circle presents part 2 of the National Black Leadership Summit. Minister Farrakhan will have opening remarks this Saturday. You don't want to miss this. Here is a clip from the latest summit.
And now we have to survive because the death plan is in motion. What is the death plan? You say, well, black folks are the most prone to the COVID virus. Why is that? Because of the comorbidity conditions, diabetes, heart failure, obesity. Name all the comorbidity problems, we lead in that. Well, let me ask you this. How did we get in this condition? Come on. Did you know that there's food that they prepare for you and me in the hood, that they kill us by zip code? When they know your zip code, they send the worst food in for us to consume.
The all-new Final Call Radio celebrates their one-year anniversary with a radiothon from April 2nd to April 4th. Go to finalcall.com to support.
I am so honored to represent God and to be his trumpet, his mouthpiece. I could never put that kind of thought on myself, but I am that voice of God. And my work proves it, and my future work will confirm that I am from God. All praise is due to Allah.
The minister recently spoke about the influence that black celebrities have on us to take the vaccine. Let's take a look at this clip.
When I tell you don't take the vaccine, television comes on. Radio comes on. My wonderful artists and sports figures come on, showing us their courage to take the vaccine. Some of you are being used and don't know it. Your fame, your celebrity, your influence, your money. Now you're being bought and paid for the destruction of your people. This is another form of the great betrayal.
On yesterday's broadcast, NNV Weekly contributor Brian E. Muhammad discussed the UN declaration condemning Egypt.
What has prompted this action by the UN?
Well, Rosalind, it was actually pressure from human rights groups and organizations from around the world who wanted to make sure that the problem of Egypt was placed on the Human Rights Council radar screen. Egypt is a member state along with these other states that you mentioned, the 31 countries that signed a letter to condemn Egypt for its human rights abuse problem. And so it took outside groups, independent groups from around the world to put pressure on the Human Rights Commission to take this up recently at their 46th session that just ended, in fact, a week ago. And so really it was pressure from the rights organizations from around the world that brought this on.
Urban gardener Vivian Muhammad discussed container gardens and greenhouses.
What are starter plants and what is the process for growing them?
Starter plants, also known as seedlings, are plants that you can buy at any kind of garden center. And those plants are then transplanted into a garden versus, for instance, direct sow or direct seeding, which means you take the actual seed and plant it directly into the soil. Because we live in Indiana in zone 6, because the whole United States is put up in zones, and in our particular zone and in other zones north of us and a few south of us, when we grow and what we can grow is very dependent on what month it is. And because we can't really get started until middle of May, as far as putting things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, watermelon, cantaloupe, all those in the garden, if we put them in too early, they will run the risk of being frosted. We have very late, Indianapolis, Indiana is notorious for late winter weather. And so all those plants would die in any type of weather below 32 degrees. Today it's 26 degrees. So you kind of get the idea. So starter plants lets us get a head start on the season, which is why they call them starter plants, because we start them indoors and then transplant them.
Hip-hop artist, writer, and MC Taye Uhuru shared information on his latest venture, Project Sunrise.
Now, on Project Sunrise, you filmed in Senegal. What was the environment like out there?
It was a little rough because, it's not, I didn't have the things I was used to here in America, the comforts that we had here. My sister actually lives over there. She has a foundation that's on land in like the countryside in Senegal, in Bojin. And they live kind of, they live off the land pretty much. And so it was a rough lifestyle, but the people were very embracing of what I was doing over there, which was a little bit surprising because I heard the Senegalese people can be a little, they can be private and proud and, they don't like cameras on, that kind of thing, but they actually embraced it. And I actually, to be honest with you, I got more support on it from people who barely spoke the same language as me there than I did ever on projects here. You know what I'm saying? So it was an eye-opening experience. It was enlightening. And by the time that I left, I was there for about 2 weeks. By the time I left, I didn't want to leave.
This week, we discussed with Dr. Akili the effects of diabetes and the higher risk of COVID virus complications among Blacks.
You give us some information as some of the symptoms that one might experience.
Yes, excellent question. So typically, how people usually will present and usually get diagnosed with diabetes is a combination of a few things, mostly being fatigued, excessive urination, typically at night. Sometimes they have problems with like swallowing and just other things that occur when a person is dehydrated. Of course, sugar draws water in the body like a sponge does water. And so when your sugar is high, it's being pulled out of the tissues, urinate a lot of water into the toilet. And so the body winds up being dehydrated and not able to function as it should. Of course, the body is 75% water. So it just makes sense that if you drain water out of the body and the body is no longer in that percentage that it should be, then things start to go south.
Dr. Akili also discussed food shortages and what foods we can begin to store.
What food items and non-perishable goods should people stock up on to sustain themselves and their family during these perilous times?
Yes, ma'am. So I would say, the first thing that I would suggest would be navy beans because of the nutritional value that they have and the capacity for storage. You can store them for periods of time without them spoiling. Other things that we could also consider would be, of course, canned foods, but there's a period of time that those would no longer be good. Dried fruits, seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, things of that nature. And in a time like we're living in, when you are considering what you are storing, the health and the quality of that food needs to be taken in consideration as well, because we don't want to be in a situation like this where food is short. And then when you do put food in your body, you're putting food that is null and void of nutrients. And so that's one of the things I think we should really consider. Navy beans, other things that we can use and that we can store that will give us the quality nutrition that we need. So if there are sparing meals, you're still getting the type of nutrition that can serve you well.
Ilya Rashad updated us on UFOs and the government's plan to release reports.
The U.S. has secret evidence of UFOs breaking the sound barrier without a sonic boom and performing moves humans don't have the technology for. Is it true that humans don't have this technology?
Not the type of humans that are a part of this world. Mm-hmm. However, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as some may or may not know, was the one who introduced this reality of what people call UFOs to the modern world. This, he was directly shown by his teacher, who he claims to have been taught by God in person, in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Interesting that most of the scholars and critics leave this very important part out when they're discussing this topic, but it was Master Fard Muhammad who is responsible for these wheel-shaped crafts and the gigantic, what we call the mother wheel, the gigantic wheel-shaped craft that he literally showed physically to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the early 30s and gave him the most intricate and intimate details concerning these crafts, those who pilot and control them, what they're capable of, and their overall purpose on this earth or in the world. And that purpose is to show that there is a new, more superior power that is on scene, and that is the power of God, whose presence is in the real world.
Right.
Let us pause for announcements from our sponsors. Nina Shabazz, one of NNV's weekly Global View contributors, will be highlighting an African located touring company founded by a Cleveland, Ohio native. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
This is Sister Sajida Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajida House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajidahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small but significant steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
This evening, we are joined by Taye Uhuru of Camp Cleveland. He has a touring company that tours to many different countries in Africa. He'll be sharing his experiences and maybe even make some recommendations on what to do and see if you are planning to visit Africa, in the future.
It's my bro Danilo, man. He do a lot of good work out here. If y'all see me trying to raise money for the school or trying to raise money for the recreation center, he the guy that, facilitate that and put all that together. If y'all see me in the picture with the elementary school kids, and we brought some supplies out. We got a couple people to come out, but what we really want to do is bring more African Americans to Cape Verde so they can show their support and also learn about the culture and learn about the history, because a lot of African Americans passed through Cape Verde before they even went to America. So it's a lot of things that you should know about Cape Verde and the people of Cape Verde and Africa itself. And if you want more information about how to give back or help the children of Santiago, you could just message me on Facebook. And if not, you can come out here yourself and meet Brother Danilo and meet some of the children that you will be helping. And if you can't do that, you can send school supplies or whatever. All right, till next time.
Joining us to discuss the Global View Report is National Network View contributor Nina Shabazz. Welcome back, Sister Nina.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So, I did speak with Brother Taye a little bit more. And so I wanted to bring him on tonight to kind of, in his own words, talk to his experiences about Africa. I think we have Brother Taye waiting to be brought on. So I want to ask you, hi, how are you?
All is well.
Good. So we saw the Cape Verde clip. So, that's fascinating. There's so many. I was reading the sign in the back. Looks like it was in Spanish, and I know that Africa has been colonized by so many different countries. And so the languages, they speak multiple languages there. So tell us, how did you get started in your tours to Africa?
Oh, okay. Well, to begin, I'm a world traveler. I visited more than 70 countries around the world. And all the time when I return to America, people want to know about Africa. They want to know about the dark continent. So I basically began the tours to clear up a lot of misconceptions that Americans have about Africa and African people.
Okay, bro. That's very interesting. That's very interesting there. You say that you have been a traveler, right? So what countries do you tour, and do you create excursions for your clients, or do you or how do you allow that?
Okay. So primarily the tours are in Africa. We have about 7 tours available right now, and I'm planning on adding more tours. I visited about 20 African countries, but the tours that are available are Ghana, Senegal, Egypt, Cape Verde, South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania. And the tours are very flexible. Africa is a very diverse continent, and people have their hearts set on seeing different things. So I work with them to the best of my ability.
Amazing.
So what has been the most exciting experience for you in hosting tours? And you've mentioned you've been to over 70 countries. What has been maybe the most exciting? What has been, tell us a little bit about your experiences that maybe been frightening, or just kind of give us an overall experience from the most exciting to the most, frightening.
Oh, okay. As far as my travels around the world, I haven't had any horror stories. A lot of countries are a lot safer than the United States, including Africa. They have dozens of countries that have lower crime rates, lower gun violence, less mass shootings, and of course, less racism. So when I'm in Africa, I tend to feel stress free. I tend to feel welcome. You know, to narrow it down to one African country, that's almost impossible. But I will say, you know, say a place like Egypt, you know, where we learn about ancient African history, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Queens, the pyramids of Giza, the Step Pyramid. You know, these places show us how great we were before slavery. And that's the feeling that I think all African Americans should have. And, you know, also Ghana, I would give it up to Ghana because a lot of us are still looking for closure and reconnection um, in terms of the transatlantic slave trade, so we can see what our ancestors went through. We can enter the door of no return. We can visit the slave dungeons, the slave ports, and we can also learn about the reconnection and the offerings that places like Ghana have made to us as far as land, as far as citizenship, as far as asking for forgiveness.
Hmm. Absolutely, brother. So, you know, you speak about a lot of information that we're not taught about in our American school system. And so, you know, something that I want to know is, you know, what inspired you to get out and start to travel a little more, research a little more in different countries?
Well, that started with my family. You know what I'm saying? My mom, she was a bus driver. She drove the Greyhound, and she would take us on trips to New York and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and places like that. And my family has always been into Black pride and Black history. You know, we have Garveyites and people that were in the nation, and you know, Black nationalists and things like that. So I always admired Black history and Black people. And you know, when I got old enough, I got my passport and I wanted to go straight, you know, to the motherland.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was the first country you visited when you got your passport?
Okay, now the first country I went to was I went to Amsterdam. I had some friends from South America. You know, they Black, but they migrated. So I kind of started with places where I knew people first. But the first African country that I visited was South Africa, and that was almost 10 years ago now.
Man, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, how did you start your touring company?
In about 2016, you know, I got my LLC, and then I just started taking small groups of people, maybe one or two here, three or four here. So I've taken middle school students, I've taken high school students, college students, elders, young adults. You know, Africa has something for all of us.
Absolutely. No, it's absolutely. It's one of the richest, if not the richest, you know, continent in the world.
Absolutely. Since there are so many languages spoken in Africa, you know, I wanted to know from you, do you speak any additional languages?
Well, unfortunately, right now I speak English, I speak a little Spanish, a little Portuguese, a little French, but I haven't been able to tap into the African languages. But I do look forward to learning Amharic. I do look forward to learning Swahili and Zulu. I want to, you know, kind of make myself a linguist by me traveling to, you know, so many different countries.
Absolutely.
I saw the school. I just want to circle back really quick to the school. Now, you show the particular school in your clip, and you mentioned how we can help them. Are there any other, you know, projects that you have that are, you know, kind of near and dear to your heart that you might want to mention? And then maybe, you know, if you want to give out an email address, also, you know, more of our viewers can get involved if they want to schedule tours and get a little bit more information about your company.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always giving back. Always giving back to the community. On a global perspective, I've helped schools in the Philippines. I've helped schools in Cape Verde. I volunteered at orphanages in the Dominican Republic. I volunteered at recreation centers. I'm always active. I partner with the Humble Beginnings network, and we were able to give away dozens of bikes and book bags and skateboards and scooters this past Christmas. So I do so much stuff, you know, it's hard to remember, but definitely if anybody is interested in giving back to the school in Cape Verde in particular, or any of the other ventures, they can contact me by email, campcleveland216@gmail.com. I also have a website, campcleveland.org. And if they have any questions about, you know, the tours or anything else, I'll be free to help them.
I went to your website, and I know just from some of the things that you've mentioned that you're also working on a book. Now, is your book a culmination of your travels, or what can they expect? What can you expect for readers to get from your book?
I do address my travels a little bit in the book, but the book is primarily based on my family's history. My uncle, he co-founded a Black Power organization in the city of Cleveland in the 1960s, and his organization was at the forefront of reintroducing Black Americans to African history, African culture, African language, and African dancing, African music. So they built shops and they sold dashikis and African necklaces and beads and earrings and pottery and paintings and things like that. But they also had educational programs. They taught economics. They taught self-defense. You know, they trained with the rifles. They trained with the machetes. They did hand-to-hand combat. They did things like that. They opened a theater. They did plays. They did poetry readings. They did fashion shows. You know, they had the breakfast programs, the lunch programs. So they did a lot of amazing things for the city of Cleveland.
Wow. It's amazing.
Wow. It's very amazing. And we want to, thank your father and thank you for the amazing work that you have been doing in the community and also in the community, in our extended community overseas as well. And, just before we depart from you, is there anything else that you want to share with us today?
I think we covered everything pretty much. I just want to thank you guys so much for, allowing me on your platform. It's truly an honor. And if anybody is watching and they need any information, feel free to contact me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. Peace. All right. So now we're going to take a quick pause for announcements from our sponsors. And then Newark, New Jersey activist Abdul Haqq Muhammad will join us once again to give an update on the Newark Peace Agreement. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. As we renovate and restore the former home of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have recycled the old copper gutters and downspouts and created a 1 ounce 39mm coin made of 100% pure copper. Each coin is professionally graded and has its own barcode and registration number. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
As too many innocent people are dying in the inner city, the Newark Peace Agreement has emerged, bringing collective that are standing in solidarity to end violence.
Working on this peace agreement, right? It says, so it's yourself, it's me, got the Minister Abdul Haqq, got Brother Boog. And what made you agree to want to be a part of the peace agreement?
Man, I'm just tired of seeing people die, man. It's like, it's innocent people dying now.
Mm-hmm.
You like, wow, man, you know what I'm saying? So when you've been around for so long, you kind of know who's who did what, you know what I'm saying? And you seeing the innocent people die, you like, man, the worms are still living. Man, you know what I'm saying?
Man, so like united we stand, divided we gonna continue to fall, man. We understand what's going on out here. We older now, so we see it clearer. You know what I'm saying? Like we real big bros, so we obligated, man, to show the youth. You know what I'm saying? Some of the ones that look up to us and carried on the legacies, and who we kind of like pass the torch to unwillingly. And we obligated to show them another way, man. That's the only reason why I feel like we still here, we still breathe, still right here, in this moment, in these moments we got.
Here to give us an update is student minister and community activist Abdul Haqq Muhammad.
Hi, salam alaikum, my brother. Good to see you.
Walaikum salam, brother. Welcome back, my brother and dear student minister.
On behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, thank you, brother, tremendously. I'm greatly appreciative and highly honored for the privilege and the pleasure. Thank you again, brother.
Thank you, my brother. And so the Newark Peace Agreement is a unifying force of people who are standing together in solidarity against senseless violence. So who are these leaders who are among this collective?
We have various leaders, various organizations, from the clergy, community organization, independent activists. We have New Direction, the Anti-Violence Coalition, the North Community Street Team. It's a concert of various organizations, social movements, even political movements are actively involved in helping us to implement the Newark Peace Agreement.
Yes, sir. And, we have to commend you all on really displaying what true unity is all about. So I definitely want to thank you for that, my brother. And what are some of the initiatives you have implemented or plan to implement, that will bring even more people into your movement?
All praise is due to Allah. But dear brother, you spoke about unity, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us that unity would solve 95% of our problems. Although the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there is no problem today that is as hard to solve as the problem of uniting the American so-called Negro. However, what we are practicing now is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us is operational unity. This is unity without uniformity. So everybody have a function, everybody has a lane, as they say, and everybody is playing their particular part. So I thank Almighty God Allah for the various organizations and individuals, and particularly, more important, the brothers and sisters in the street who we are striving and attempting to give them and help them to implement this Newark Peace Agreement. We are grateful for their cooperation. We are grateful for their respect, and we're grateful for their willingness to step up, you understand, and do something different than we are accustomed, and used to doing. So we are greatly appreciated. We're greatly appreciative for them and what they're doing.
Yes, sir. And that's an absolute fact. And so I guess we could say, that the community has really just kind of decided together to step up to end the senseless violence. And that's why the Newark Peace Agreement is growing, and that there are so many different people that are coming together as a collective, right?
Yes, sir. I believe, it's a combination of several factors that's now encouraging our people to do more as it relates to being more actively involved, as it relates to not just my community, but our community. One of the major problems that we as a people face in our community is bystander apathy. It's called bystander apathy. When you see someone doing something, you feel since they have it, you don't have to participate. But I can see that Newark is inhaling the spirit of unity and cooperation and community, real community, not just the word, but community in practice. And we are implementing and instituting the principles that we have been given from giants like Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So the teachings have always been here, but now it's time that we implement these teachings and all that they have given us. So I'm humbled and I'm honored to be a part of such a great initiative that's not just happening in the North, but in urban cities all throughout America. So all praise is due to Allah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And, the murder of Black youth at the hands of police are occurring when no crime was committed. So why are police killing and attacking people engaged in mundane activities of life?
Well, dear brother, I think it's because this country have dehumanized us. And historically as well as presently, we know the grotesque caricatures that Hollywood have portrayed us as. We know the narrative that the media is always putting on the Black man and woman. So I think we have been dehumanized, and that dehumanization by the Western media, it has made us appear as monsters. It has made us appear like something that we are not. So when the police encounter us, they may encounter a 13-year-old, but in their mind, he's 23, he's 25. So various studies have been done as it relates to the way that officers, in particular white officers, see young Black men and young Black girls. They see them as being older than what they really are, and that's how they handle us, and that's how they have been handling us.
Right. That's absolutely right, brother. The dehumanization of us has definitely caused, a uproar of more and more senseless acts of violence from the police towards us. With George Floyd, Philando Castile, Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Freddie Gray, and the list goes on and on of Black men and boys who died from injuries suffered during encounters with police. So will police continue to murder Black men? What should Black people do to protect themselves from this open enemy?
Well, we have to know that we do have an open enemy. We have to realize that everyone that may have flesh and blood are not as human as we are. I'll put it like that. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us the nature of our open enemy. And he have taught us that as a people, we must understand and realize and recognize the time in which we are living. But he teaches us that if you don't know what was, you can't know what is, and you'll be ill prepared for what is yet to come. So historically in this country, Black people have always been brutalized. We have been maimed. We have been handled like we are not human beings. We were told that we were 3/5 of a human being. So as it was in the past, so it is in the present. So we must unite our efforts. We must continue to do all that we can do to help each other and to do right by one another, because we as a people have too many external enemies for us to be enemies of one another. So again, brother, unity is the watchword that I think Black America need to really begin to try to implement and institute.
Yes, sir. That was very, very well said. As it is in the past, it is in the present. And I couldn't agree more, my brother. In roughly half of police murders of Blacks, the officers involved remained on the force. Those who are persecuted were eventually acquitted. So if the courts don't find Derek Chauvin guilty, will Newark and other cities erupt again in mass protests?
I believe so, dear brother. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us that the continued injustice to the Black man and woman of America in particular, it will cause this country to begin to erupt in anarchy, which is the total absence of government. We saw it when George Floyd first was murdered, but that was just a dress rehearsal, as you call it. But I believe that if justice is not served, that America will erupt and America will explode. Because right now we are sitting on a powder keg. The people are very angry. You understand? They're very desperate. And a lot of people are losing hope. And Black people in particular, we have already lost hope in this so-called justice system that America have governed us under. So I pray, Almighty God, Allah, that the right decision is made and the right verdict is reached in this particular trial.
Yes, sir. Most definitely, because we are definitely tired and we are definitely done with allowing the senseless murders of our Black individuals.
Yes, sir. We are tired of being sick and tired, my brother.
Tired of being sick and tired, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And a Michigan State police trooper allowed his police dog to attack a Black suspect for almost 4 minutes. So the man pleads for him until the man pleads for him to stop. Is what blacks are experiencing now any different than slave catchers and lynchings? Why are police being so brutal towards our people at this moment in time?
Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that the origin of the modern day police are from slave catchers, the paddy rollers, slave patrols. See, they always wanted to keep us confined. They always wanted to keep us segregated and regulated to a certain status, whether that was socially or physically, geographically. So they always had to keep us under their foot and thumb. So during slavery, white folks never wanted us to organize. They always had to keep a watch on us because they were afraid that if we came together, that we would unite and do to them.
Yeah.
This problem can be solved unless we get to the nature and the origin of the problem. I think a lot of what we are talking about, police reform, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, you can't reform a racist mind. So this is going to be a failed effort when we talk about reform. This current system must totally be obliterated and a new system must be given. And that's why in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, as well as the book of Revelations, God said, behold, I make all things new. Not some things, but all things new. Because if it was
We're having some technical difficulties. That is okay. We'll be right back. Let's see.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Minister Farrakhan warned us of calamity after calamity, famine, fire, pestilence, and changes in the weather.
When we say the word refugee, many of us think of war, political conflict, violence. But there is another kind of crisis that experts say will create millions of refugees for decades. And a lot of them will be from places like California.
Everybody is vulnerable to it. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are vulnerable to your environment.
Stanford emergency medicine doctor Paul Auerbach studies climate change and its impact on human health. He says the climate crisis is causing life-threatening problems like the wildfires in California or the storms in Texas, and forcing people to pick up and move their entire life somewhere else, making them climate refugees.
We were terrified of, we didn't ever want to go through that again. So we didn't want to live with trees around us.
Ann Martin and her boyfriend ditched California for Tucson, Arizona, right after she says their house in Paradise burned down in the campfire. Ann explains that the cost of living also made it hard to live here, but the fire and the fear that it could happen again next time forced them to finally move.
I don't want to lose what little I have left, I've already lost my most precious possessions are gone.
Dr. Auerbach says that it is estimated that more than 25 million people worldwide are forced to leave their communities every year because of weather events like wildfires, hurricanes, floods, and droughts.
As warnings from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan advised us to watch the weather, we must prepare for unforeseen disasters, rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes.
For through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have been warned. Through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we have been warned of this hour in which we would face calamities, one after the other, that we would face earthquake, famine, fire, that we would face pestilence, dis-ease, that we would face, brothers and sisters, the overwhelming change in weather, that we would be tested by abundant snow, rain, hail, and earthquake. The disaster of chaos.
Thank you, Sister Taquella Mahammad, for coming on to speak on this topic of disaster preparedness.
All praises due to Allah. Thank you all for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Greetings, my sister. How are you doing today?
Doing well by Allah's grace and mercy. I pray the same for you and everyone else.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. By that same grace. So let us dive right on in, beloved. So how can people plan and prepare for a disruption in the supply of food?
Yes, sir. People can begin to prepare now by first and foremost stocking items in their homes, purchasing things now such as the Navy bean, any non-perishable foods that they can have in their homes, water, at least at the minimum, 1 gallon per person per day, as well as canning. Right now, we are experiencing a little bit of hyperinflation, and so prices are slowly rising on the back end. So we want to make sure that we get these things now while we can afford it and the prices are low. That would be the first thing to start, as well as evacuation planning and having drills for you and your families.
Absolutely. That is some very important information. And so what measures can people take to safeguard food supplies as the cost and demand for staple goods increase and shelves empty? How can people store food to prevent deterioration and spoilage?
The biggest thing that I would say is first knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So now we should be studying on how to prepare for any disaster because we never know what disaster might strike in our area or neighborhoods. We can also start by stocking and knowing how to stock our foods properly, such as keeping them in a cool, dry place away from any direct sunlight, keeping our foods in like 5-gallon buckets or any containers that keeps bugs or rodents from attaining our food. Also storing our foods in Mylar bags or freeze-dry bags, as well as getting dehydrated and freeze-dried foods that will last 20 plus years.
Absolutely, sister. And thank you for that information. Pulling from that, if we have all of these supplies in our home, right? So what happens when weather disasters have hit the U.S., causing destruction of property, utilities to shut down, and require people to evacuate homes? So what should we have in a disaster preparedness plan that helps us in the event of evacuation?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, we all should have our go bags with us. A go bag is a bag that you basically put together for you and your family, each member of the family of your household, where you have enough items to last you for a bare minimum of 3 days, which includes food, clothing, some type of shelter that you're able to put on your back comfortably and be able to walk for long distance or periods of time. You also want to have those same storage containers in your car or at your workplace, as well as your children's schools if they're in school. And you want to make sure that you are preparing your family by having those evacuations, practicing without utilities to know how to cook or how to be able to survive without having heat, without having food, without being able to cook your food, and just practice with your family. Maybe do a camping thing where you all are turning your lights off and turning off the electricity just for that day to see how you all cope and survive during that time, as well as walking long periods of time with your backpack on to see how far off your family can make it during any disaster. So the biggest thing is properly preparing before the disaster strikes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope our viewers are taking notes, because this is very, very important information that you're going to need in case of a disaster and an emergency. I know I went through one not too long ago in Texas, if you heard about the winter storm that we had down here. And, just for the minimum of amount of preparedness that I had, I was able to keep me and my family safe throughout the time that we were kind of frozen inwards, if you will. So, what places are best suitable for sheltering in the event a person or DC family must evacuate their home? With COVID-19 rampant, is it better to go to an isolated place or among crowds?
I would say definitely, if possible, an isolated place. They do have public shelters available, but of course, I would caution those because they have their own rules, laws, and stipulations. So the biggest thing first is having a family member that you may be able to go to locally in the same state or same city, that you may have a way of contacting so that you are able to get to them. Also having tents and different items available on hand just in case you may have to sleep outside or sleep somewhere congested, because that could be a possibility. But the worst case scenario would be a public shelter, and make sure you locate those ahead of time, as well as have a radio, a crank radio, a weather radio that tells you the pending disasters that are coming and where you could find those shelters for immediate evacuation.
Thank you. Thank you for that information again, my dear sister, because calamities happen. They will happen. If they haven't happened to you now, you never know. It may happen to you in the future, and you don't want to be stuck because you weren't prepared. And we are offering this video, this live stream here, for you to get ready and to get prepared for it. So I thank you again for giving us that valuable information. And, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in his 2019 message, Guidance to Black America, America is surrounded with the judgment of God. He warned us of a time that when there will be calamity after calamity. Can a disaster preparedness plan help us in time of multiple calamities? If so, how?
Yes, a disaster preparedness plan can definitely help us because it gets us in the mindset. For example, fasting is part of my disaster preparedness plan because it teaches us how to prepare before a disaster. So if we teach and train ourselves and discipline ourselves to eat a certain way, then when it comes time for us to have to fast for long periods of time, we're prepared to do that. The same thing with your family. If they know that, okay, we practice for a fire, we practice for an earthquake, where do we go? Then everyone knows where to go and where to find your loved ones in the case that you may not be home during that disaster. So you definitely want to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Everyone knows what to do during any disaster, and therefore you can ensure that your family can be safe.
Okay. So I do have a question. So what would you say to those parents who may have kids and are training them, right? And the children may be getting tired of doing the repetitive training over and over again, and their parents are needing ways to motivate their children to keep on training for this said case that they may not know may happen, but we know for certain will happen.
Yes, sir. The biggest thing is to make it fun, make it enthusiastic for them. Give it a little break, but then come back and practice and just kind of test their knowledge. You have to give them incentives when they, can do something like you say, okay, so if something was to happen right now, there was an earthquake, where would we go? And then when they show you what to do, then give them an incentive, give them allowance, give them, junk food for that little portion of time, like ice cream or something. Cause I do that sometimes for my children, just to reward them for making sure that they're paying attention, because you want to make sure that they know and that they have it embedded in them, again, because you may not be there present with them when a disaster strikes.
Absolutely. Once again, I want to thank you for just giving us so many gems and so much valuable information that we can use in case of a disaster that may hit, that we know will probably hit. And so I just want to thank you again for giving us that information. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your evening. And thank you again for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you all for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for joining us today and tuning into NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Tariq X with National Network View News.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.